Well, shalom, family. Thank you so much for joining us here at Remnant House, the home of the strong and the very courageous. My apologies to all of you for the delayed time. This is a first here. Now we do have weather, so weather could show up at any second. But in addition to the weather, for the first time ever in I don't know how long have we been doing these broadcasts? Quite a while. All of a sudden, our streaming service said, "Oh, I'm sorry. There's been too many. There's too many." Too much traffic going at the same time. Is it me, or are they coming up with excuses now to continue to mess with us? Thank you so much for joining us, folks. We're always glad you're here, and so grateful for those of you that join us when we do these live, because they're kind of hard to catch now. I mean, we try to start them exactly on time, and that doesn't always work out. So thank you to every one of you that catch us live, and for those of you that come on by, thank you for sharing the link. Thank you for subscribing and participating with us as we go over the news on our weekly news update. And nobody says, they say they can't hear me. No volume. What do you mean you can't hear me? You can't hear my, hold on a second. 1 2 1 2. Give me a 5x5. Somebody said there's no volume. I see my microphone looks hot. Looks like it's happening. But if you're telling me you can't hear me, we got a problem. You got a problem out there? Can you hear me out there? Giant Killer says he got a 5x5. Giant Killer can hear me. He's in Florida. All right, turn the volume up. Woo, you're scaring me here. You're scaring me, people. Paul can hear me, and he's in Northern California. So I got it in California, Northern California. I think I'm covered. I don't know, folks. Shalom, shalom, shalom. I'm so glad you're here. My goodness, I tell you what, we continue to have battles. And it doesn't seem to matter what, if it's not one thing, it's another. And oh, now you got a blur. Wait a minute. Now you got a blur. What is going on here? Look at that. Now you got blurs going on. I'm telling you, this broadcast was a battle to put up. And you guys can see it's not me. I'm standing. I'm ready to go. Okay. Now it says I can't post comments. It just popped up. It's crazy. I think a lot of activities going on. There's a lot going on in the earth. There's a lot of things happening. So there's probably a lot of people talking now. And that's actually a good thing, folks. And that means that people are communicating. People are starting to talk about things. And let's face it, there's a lot to talk about. So let's get into the news. And we have this website. I want to just point it out. We do it every week before we get going because, there's new people with us. Some of you joined Remnant House because of the news. I think that's oh so awesome. Okay, anyway. This handy banner here at top of remnantwatch.com takes you to the latest news update whenever we've pulled it off. Okay. And we also have this forum right here for going back and taking a look at any of the previous stories that we've covered. And don't forget download our free survival guides as we put them up. We have yet to take them down because we continue to see more disasters, more things, more reasons, guys, why we need to be a people who are prepared. And I want to tell you something. A lot of people are now waking up and recognizing, going, wait a second, maybe I don't want to be in these highly populated areas if things are about to go cuckoo. But that's exactly what's going on right now, because right now you've got plans going on that are scary, and we're going to get into that tonight. So grab some popcorn, grab a cup of coffee, or don't grab coffee. We want you to calm down. Don't grab any coffee. Not coffee. Grab something else, something calm, something soothing. Right, David? Come on. We want soothing out here. We don't want anybody upset. Come on, David. Join me here. Get in this broadcast with me so we can calm everybody down, because otherwise this is going to get dicey. I want to tell you right now. Let's get into the news. Tonight's top story is not war. We're not going to talk about that as the top story because, frankly, there's a lot more going on in the earth. And how many know that we're waiting for a 10.0 earthquake? Yes, we were told that was coming. That's back in 2014. I'll go over that some other time. But we continue to watch these earthquakes because we were warned in Matthew chapter 24 that we would see earthquakes in diverse places. And how many know that we just saw one in Venezuela that was devastating? There were 70,000 people missing in that earthquake alone. This is neighboring Venezuela in Colombia. In fact, this hit so hard, it rattled parts of Venezuela. That's how big this was. Strong earthquake in Colombia, as officials report deaths, injuries, and collapse buildings. A 7.4 magnitude earthquake, which hit about 250 miles west of Bogota, Colombia, resulted in serious damage and people, of course, injured in this. It's horrific, folks. When you see these videos, when you see these things, know that they can happen anywhere at any time. And earthquakes are absolutely one of the most terrifying things you can ever experience. You don't know where to run. You don't know where to go. This is horrible. We need to continue to pray for those that are in harm's way. Those in this part of the world, South America, has been rocked. We're seeing, this video, I thought this was a short video. This is continuing on. They're showing literally people in the streets as the shaking is going on. And look at this, folks. There's no place to run. There's no place to go. These power lines could fall right on top of them. They're not even looking up. That's how dangerous earthquakes can be. It's a very, very volatile situation. And frankly, continuing in the earth. Why? Because we've reached that time. That's right. We've reached the time of this destruction, and it's going to continue to happen. We're going to continue to see more and more things like this, where again, people will not be able to know how to even handle it, because again, when the earth starts shaking, what do you do? Where do you run? Where do you go? This is why it's so critically important that we find our place, find our fold, and be found faithful. And I want to tell you, this right here has got to get everybody a little concerned, because this is not man-made. This is not something that men are doing. This is the earth itself reacting all over the world. And so we're seeing more and more things that are very, very concerning. And again, beyond man's things, we're going to get into men doing dumb things, right? We talk about men doing dumb things every week. But this is the earth, folks. This is things going on to the earth or on the earth itself. So it's beyond man, if you will. Take a look at this. This one has me greatly concerned. Some of you are in Canada. I've been hearing from people in the northern part of the United States. I got to tell you, this has got to have you concerned. I don't care where you are in the northern United States. You're going to get affected by this, because look at this. 20,000 are fleeing wildfires as British Columbia declares a state of emergency. If you think this is going to stay contained, folks, we've got a problem. More than 100 wildfires are burning across the province. Nearly half are out of control. And I don't think people are aware how many actual wildfires they are going on in the United States at this time. There's quite a few happening at the same time. So take a look at this footage. As you can see, this is devastating. How would you like to look up and look at this, right? And see this coming at you, see this in your neighborhood. This is terrifying beyond words. I'm pretty sure everybody would feel the same way. And so this is why it's critically important, folks, devastatingly important for all of us to be prepared in the event of a disaster. It's one of the reasons why we keep those guides there, because again, people don't think about this stuff, folks, until the disaster arrives, right? And so Remnant House is here every week to say, hey, get prepared. Don't anticipate, don't think that it can't happen to you. Every single one of these people being evacuated right now thought the same thing. It can't happen to us. It's not here. It's somewhere else, right? Vancouver, British Columbia, declared a state of emergency Saturday after a fast-moving wildfire destroyed homes and forced more than 20,000 people to flee communities along the Okanagan Lake in Western Canada, with dozens rescued, look at this, by aircraft. Do you think they planned on that when they woke up in the morning? No, they did not. Premier David Eby announced the emergency as more than 100 wildfires burned across the province, nearly half of them out of control in hot, windy weather and prolonged drought. So we know the drought conditions are favorable for this type of thing. And frankly, folks, it is probably going to continue. So be careful out there. Pick your locations carefully. We were talking about vacationing up north, and we're seriously reconsidering that because of the fact that there are so many wildfires and so many things going on up there. We're like, hey, why don't you come down here and visit us instead? Because I got to tell you, this is getting dicey. All right. And now we're seeing possibilities of travel being interrupted, and we've got more things going on in the earth. Take a look at this report, folks. We got Americans being issued travel warnings as volcano and typhoon hit. All right, so this is huge going on right now. Americans have been warned of potential travel disruption in Guatemala as the Fuego volcano shows increasing activity, while a powerful typhoon has also prompted alerts for U.S. travelers in Japan, which we're going to cover here in a moment. And so the U.S. Department of Consular Affairs issued a natural disaster alert for Guatemala on Wednesday, citing reports from the country's volcanic monitoring agency. And so, did that have something to do with the earthquake that we just saw go off in Colombia? Could be. We're seeing some serious rumbling going on along the Pacific Rim, the Ring of Fire, as it's called. And now we're wondering, hey, are some of these things going to continue to ripple? And is this going to ripple into California? Right. So do we know what we are going to see? We really don't. And so we have to pray, we have to stand in faith, and we have to listen to the Ruach, because some of you may be in harm's way and you need to get out of Dodge. So some of you got to realize that you might be in a dangerous spot, right? And that's why we give these reports, so you're informed without being overwhelmed. You can anticipate the problem ahead of time, get prepared, and if necessary, if you're told to move, you can get out of Dodge before there's trouble. Okay, now we're going to shift over to the Middle East. And of course, they want us to be talking about nothing else but war. Well, we've got other fish to fry, but we do need to keep an eye on what's going on there. Trump is demanding, there's demands Iran pay compensation after Tehran makes conditions for reopening the Straits of Hormuz. So they're going back and forth now on what's going to be the terms. That I got to tell you, they don't have a lot of time, and they've got to come up with the answer really fast. And I mean within the week. President Trump demanded Monday that Iran compensate victims' families in Middle East countries after Tehran said it wouldn't reopen the Straits of Hormuz without being compensated for war damage, among other demands. Well, they can go tit for tat for this for quite a while. Mr. Trump told Axios the U.S. is only semi-negotiating with Iran and signaled he would allow economic pressure to pile on Tehran. Well, it looks like it's a mutual discussion. Meanwhile, Iran-backed Houthis rebels in Yemen attacked the government-held port city of Mocha last Saturday night for the second time in 24 hours. Attacks like this threaten to expand the conflict into other strategic shipping routes on the Red Sea. So we're going to continue to see conflict erupting in the Middle East as we anticipated, as we are watching Bible prophecy unfold, as the situation continues to heat up, and we're seeing all kinds of different angles of this as well. Again, eschatology playing its head here, because people, what they believe is in the future, what they believe is future, is affecting their decision making. This is dangerous, folks, and this is exactly what we're going to see here as we continue. And Israel, in response to the peace plan that Mr. Trump put forward, how many were kind of hopeful when you heard about a Gaza peace plan? Many of you thought maybe, just maybe, we might see some peace for a little while, at least for a moment, a breather. We need a breather. We need a bit of a breather. Don't you think we need a bit of a breather? Well, apparently they didn't think so. And Israel has rejected Trump's 15-point plan for Gaza, stoking tensions with the U.S. So Israel pushing back hard against the United States and against Donald Trump in his efforts to bring peace to the region. So again, once again, those that continue to try to handle Jerusalem, it's a cup of trembling. And as Zechariah promised, it is cut stone for everybody that tries to handle it. Israel rejects that. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel will not withdraw forces from Gaza until Hamas fully disarms. So it's not going to do it as a condition, a precondition to disarmament. It requires disarmament first. So Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu insisted he has rejected President Donald Trump's plan for Gaza and will not withdraw forces until the Palestinian group Hamas fully disarms. So they're going to go with this first, and they're requiring this first risk more obstacles in the increasing complex efforts to reduce escalation in multiple fronts in the region. You got to remember, these people believe that their armaments are the only thing keeping them from being absolutely destroyed. That they believe that the only reason why they're not completely being genocided right now is the fact that they can fight at least somewhat back. So asking them to completely disarm is to put complete trust in the Israeli regime that they won't come in and just annihilate them. Can you understand the challenge? Can you understand the problem? Given what has already happened, given what has already occurred in this part of the world, it is reasonable for there to be concern about whether or not the players will keep their word. And so as a result, this is making it much more difficult for us to see a resolution. Now, why do we know this to be part of the biblical narrative, if you will? Things that we saw go on in the past are repeating themselves. Why? Because, again, Jerusalem becomes, as always, a cup of trembling. Why? Because, again, people are looking for power and control. When they're looking for power and control, they want to control things that others revere. others respect. They want to control the word. They want to control Torah of place and locations where it is considered kadosh, except they got a little fooled here because Yahuwah decides where he places his name. That is not something man gets to do. So we're going to see this thing continue to unfold, but I believe it's going to get really dicey in that part of the world. And Tehran is issuing a drastic new demand for a deal to reopen Hormuz, says the U.S., and it must correct its behavior. Washington doesn't immediately respond to the new demands, which include a permanent end to the conflict and withdrawal of American forces from the Middle East, complete compensation for war damage. So they're asking for it all. Iran's Politburo-like body known as the Supreme National Security Council on Saturday declared the Strait of Hormuz will not open until the United States corrects its behavior, issuing new demands that could shake up talks on a deal to manage the waterway and traffic on it. And again, this affects your gas prices, your shipping costs, your employment, and your economy. So do not think that because this is halfway around the world that this doesn't affect you, because it does. Iran's state broadcaster published the statement by the council's secretary, Mohammed Baghar Zolgadar, that was a hard one, who is also a commander in the powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And so these are important officials in the Iranian regime who are telling the United States that nothing is going to happen unless you stop threatening Iran. And so they're saying the United States must never threaten Iran again. That's what they're saying. They must never threaten Iran again, and they must permanently end the war with Iran and its armed allies in the region. The end, full stop. You need to come to a complete stop. You're telling the United States that it can no longer use its weaponry, which, by the way, how many are happy about that? Because, frankly, it never solved anything anyway. And all it costs were billions of dollars for no good reason. Billions of dollars that we could have used to do much more positive things with. And instead, we got people dying, people unemployed, people struggling, and we got buildings blowing up all over the world. What good are these weapons? Somebody help me with this, because, frankly, I haven't figured out a really, really good idea yet. And again, Trump is saying, according to this report, that he's willing to end the war with Iran without a nuclear deal. President Donald Trump was willing to end the Iran war without securing a nuclear agreement if Tehran fully reopened the Strait of Hormuz, the Wall Street Journal reported on Sunday, which, by the way, the United States had before they attacked Iran. So the Strait of Hormuz was already open, by the way, guys, just so you all clear. That's what was the case before they began this fight. So they're just going back to where they started, because it already was open. Trump has privately floated the option of senior aides after weeks of preparing to declare victory if Iran restored free passage through the strategic waterway, which, of course, they're not going to do without compensation. Otherwise, they're going to just continue to be a pain in the giant's, paw, right? Going to continue to irritate the United States. And I think that's the plan all along. I really, frankly, don't think they have any intention of doing anything but irritating the United States. So I think this was a silly thing to get themselves into. The United States, I think, made a mistake here going to war, and now it's trying to get back to the very spot it was before it started. Unfortunately for Iran, they suffered some catastrophic damage, so they definitely are worse off as a result. But so is the United States. The United States has suffered economic damage, the equivalent of which is the same as bombing. There are so many things going on right now we are going to have to cover quickly. And so now there's discussion. This is the escalation of this. And why not? Because, hey, this is all so good for everybody, right, guys? Take a look at this. America, according to this report, is preparing for nuclear war with Russia and China. Yeah, this bombshell report just leaked. In case you weren't afraid enough, in case you didn't have enough anxiety in your life, weren't afraid of enough things going on, they just want to make sure you got enough things to be afraid of. Okay, folks? There you go. This has been going on since the 50s, so calm down. Everybody just calm down. All right, the U.S. is drafting up. Oops, sorry about that, folks. U.S. is drafting up war plans. Hang on, we'll get back to that story in a second. Looks like we have some traveling links. Links are having some fun going on their own. Wait a minute, let's get back here. All right, U.S. is drafting up nuclear weapon strategy to prepare for potential war with Russia or China. It has been reported, according to this report, that's coming on the Express. Again, can we believe it? I don't know, but it's going out to the public. Defense Department Policy Chief Eldridge Colby is overseeing the strategy that emphasizes the possible use of shorter-range tactical weapons in the event of a regional conflict. 5 people familiar with the plans told NBC News. And Mr. Colby, whose new strategy goes against guidelines that have been followed for decades, is expected to attend a military event in Nebraska on Wednesday and share his views on the matter. He will be, so this is important because, again, strategic changes start to occur, and the way in which we prosecute war, the way in which we go to war, the way in which we do some of the things that we're doing, well, frankly, are going to be much more dangerous. I think that the United States has enjoyed, a geographical benefit in that it isn't in the parts of the world where it creates wars. That may not stay that way as we continue. So, and now the U.S. intel is coming out and assessing that Putin could attack or could a launch attack aimed at testing NATO unity any day now. They're really actually concerned that this is going to start at any time. Recent U.S. intelligence assessments indicate Russian President Vladimir Putin could try to test NATO's resolve by launching a limited attack in an allied country within the next few years, according to 3 sources familiar with these reports. Well, frankly, I think that a lot of that is hullabaloo. The intelligence assessments that they're relying on are the same ones that said, Russia, Russia, Russia. So we need to have a grain of salt when we're listening to some of this nonsense, because frankly, some of it is just that nonsense. But nevertheless, because other people believe it and because we know it'll affect public policy and it will affect decisions that are being made, we need to be aware of it. Doesn't mean we believe it. It just means we're aware of it. So we know that the rumor is affecting people, right? Do you believe the rumor? Maybe not. But you know about the rumor and you know how the rumor is going to affect the crowd, right? So as long as you know that, you go, hold on a minute. What are my low IQ other constituents going to do that aren't on the weekly news update? They aren't being informed, so they're not overwhelmed, and they're freaking out. What are they going to do, right? They're going to run left. You go right. Okay. They're going to crowd this way. You go this way. So that's why you got to be informed. That's why knowing what's going on is pretty smart. All right, especially from a biblical perspective. If you're in Jerusalem, you might want to know that Jerusalem's most important religious site is facing imminent threat, according to Jordan. It's an imminent threat of Israeli takeover, which of course it's going to create conflict. If the Israelis go ahead and take over the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, you can expect there to be a Muslim response. So country convenes emergency meeting of ministers from Arab and Islamic world, fearing such a move could trigger a religious conflict, and that would be uncontrollable. Jordan is convening an emergency meeting of foreign ministers from the Arab and Islamic world over what it says is an imminent threat of an Israeli takeover of the most important Muslim site in Jerusalem, with the potential to trigger a religious conflict. And so the meeting on Wednesday and the Jordanian warning follow an escalating pattern of government-backed incursions by Jewish religious extremists on the compound around Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, in violation of status quo treaty overseen by Jordan Hashemite monarchy, and by which only Muslims can pray at the site. So they're lifting this ban, or fighting to lift this ban. This has been something that the Israelis have actually been hard against for a long time. So the local sentiment, at least among the Israeli population, is that it should not be controlled by anyone but Israel. And so this is now, the settlers are getting more aggressive, of course, with the red heifer news and all of those things that are coming out. The 20th red heifer since the 1990s, but I digress. They basically are getting more and more stoked up, and I guess with the prospects of war and crying out with more desire for help, of course, this is the situation. So we're going to continue to see more of this manifesting, and some believe in the Middle East, and this is why eschatology and your perspective on the past historical events of Earth versus what you think is in the future has an impact. Take a look at this. Again, various forms of eschatology, which is the study of last days. Okay, rumors that the war with America will trigger the Mahdi, or Messiah's return, are spreading in Iran and Pakistan. You see this? So do you think that this is affecting people, will make their decisions for them? Do you think they may decide to go to war because of what they believe? Yes. A lot of these things get affected as a military confrontation between the United States and Iran grinds on. A specific rumor has begun taking hold in both Iran and Pakistan that the war itself is the mechanism that will summon the Mahdi, the messianic figure of Shia and broader Islamic end times belief, back to earth to defeat America. The claim is circulating in two very different forms in two countries, in an article of stated faith inside Iran's own Revolutionary Guard and as a viral astrological prophecy in Pakistan. But both point to the same underlying phenomenon, a war being read in real time as the opening act of an apocalyptic script. They're telling you right there, folks, in the article, an apocalyptic script is what they're unfolding right now. And I believe that's what we're watching. We're watching an apocalyptic script. The belief driving the Iranian version of this rumor sits in the center of the 12 Shia theology, the dominant branch of Islam in Iran, and the branch from which the Islamic Republic draws its religious legitimacy. Okay? 12 Shia Muslims hold that there have been 12 rightful imams, spiritual and political successors to the Prophet Muhammad, descended through his son-in-law Ali, and that the 12th of these, Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Mahdi, did not die but went into occultation, a state of divine concealment, in the 9th century CE. So 12er doctrine holds that this hidden imam remains alive, though hidden from the world, and that he will one day reemerge as the Mahdi to establish justice after a period in which injustice has become widespread and unbearable, a moment sometimes preceded in various tellings by cataclysmic war and upheaval. So, once again, we are seeing the scripting that has been put deep into the psyche or the thinking process of entire people groups being used to move people groups. Where have we seen this before? We've seen this with Manifest Destiny. We saw this with Go West Young Man, where religious beliefs bring them young. We saw this with religious beliefs that were used and stoked for public utilization to move mass peoples. We've seen this in other places, and now we're seeing it stoking war, which is incredibly dangerous. And that is happening on both sides, because there's people on the other side who believe the opposite eschatological viewpoint. And so this continues to rumble. And that's why we continue to see words like apocalyptic in our news, apocalyptic scenes, after a huge swarm of locusts fill up the sky above Russia's Dagestan. And this was trippy. I don't know if you guys saw this, but yeah, this locust thing was a wild one. You guys can go on over to remnantwatch.com and watch that. People took cover in their cars as a huge swarm of locusts darkened the sky in Russia. And the arrival of millions of locusts turned a peaceful Sunday into an apocalyptic scene in the southwestern corner of the country. And the grasshoppers swept across a field in the Kizlar district of Dagestan on Sunday, with the sky almost blocked out as they flew over. So that is a seriously thick swarm of locusts. Talk about biblical, folks. We are literally right in the midst, in the thick of it right here, aren't we? And that's exactly what I expect we're going to continue to see. Getting back to the earthquakes, we did have two in shakes in Northern California that also drew some attention. So again, there's concern about the earth reacting to everything that's going on. One day after a 4.0 magnitude earthquake rattled Trinity County, two more earthquakes shook Northern California on Wednesday afternoon. And so this continues to be of concern, because again, look at what just happened in Venezuela and now in Colombia. Big 7.0 or over 7.0 earthquakes with the downgraded USGS scale that they downgraded. So that may have been a little bigger years past. And look at the damage, look at the devastation. So if that happens on the west coast of the United States, folks, we're going to have a brand new scenario to work with here in the United States. And I got to tell you, that is not a pretty thought at all. So it looks pretty bad right now. If the west coast starts to rattle like Venezuela, like Guatemala, like Colombia, what could we possibly see on the west coast? We've been talking about this for so long that we really don't think about the collateral damage and the repercussions. But here we go, folks. Here we go. And according to this report, the situation in the Middle East and the things that are affecting us here in the United States are combined. And we only have 43 days, according to this report, of emergency buffer crude oil left. And it's at a 45-year low. I don't know quite how this is true, seeing as the United States, in fact, not only produces oil, drills oil. I don't know how it is that our strategic reserve is not being refilled by our own oil reserves. I have no idea why that is. I really don't. I don't have a good excuse for that. I don't have a good explanation for that, folks. All I can tell you is what's being reported. And what's being reported is that we have 43 days of emergency buffer of crude oil left. The U.S. has only 43 days of it. And that means there's got to be a change quick. Crude oil supplies have fallen to their lowest levels in 45 years as President Donald Trump continues to wage war against Iran. With only 43 days of global supply left, there now exists a thinner cushion against any potential disruptions should the fighting in the Middle East escalate further. According to the Bank of America Global Research data compiled by Bloomberg, the U.S. has just 43 days of crude oil supply, including that of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, compared with a long-term average of about 65 days. The data shows the measure falling to its lowest levels since the 1980s, when we had our last conflict with Iran. Seems like whenever we have conflict with Iran, you better bet on oil. Better buy oil. It's going to go up. Oil speculators making a fortune on this stuff. You know that, don't you? Okay, so you guys know there's people getting rich on this. Just so we're clear. Not everybody's suffering. Some people are doing quite well. All right? But something that we talked about last week that I thought was interesting. How many thought, why are they telling everybody about their missile numbers and all that, right? How many were going, hold on a second. Why are you putting this in the news? Like, why do I know how many missiles we have? I shouldn't know that. That should not be information I should have. Well, apparently President Trump feels the same way. So he vows jail for treasonous leakers over missile shortage report in latest Truth Social rant, which only drew more attention to it. So I don't know if that was a good thing. But anyway, President Donald Trump has reacted angrily at a report. He's reporting that he confronted Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth over an alleged munition shortage caused by the Iran war, threatening leakers who spoke to the press with jail. And so the Washington Post reported Wednesday that Trump had accosted Hegseth at Camp David in Maryland after a cabinet meeting last Friday, saying he thought the problem had been fixed, only for the White House to call the story a 100% fake news. And Trump, in turn, lashed out on Truth Social after midnight, writing, the U.S. has massive amounts of munitions, especially of certain types. Additionally, large amounts are being manufactured and shipped to the U.S. as needed. So he's making the case that, oh, no, there's nothing to worry about here. We've got plenty of munitions. Now, some people are speculating that it's a bit of a bluff. In other words, tell your enemies you're weak, make them attack, and go after them. I'm not buying that. I'm sorry, I'm not buying the old, we're faking out everybody. We want them to think we're weak so we can attack them. I don't think you invite attack. So I don't see that as a smart military strategy at all. So anybody walking around with that, I think that's a bunch of nonsense. I think Paul agrees with me. I think a few of my brethren out there going, yeah, right. No, instead, they ran into munitions problems, and now they're trying to make it look like it's no big deal. So we've got ourselves a problem, folks. We got ourselves a problem. And the Houthis don't seem to be slowing down at all. Apparently, they're getting plenty of munitions. Okay. They killed 58 troops in Yemen, wounded 11 civilians in an attack on Saudi Arabia. So senior Saudi cities intel show Houthis and Iraqi militia under IRGC supervision could soon launch coordinated attacks on Saudi civilian energy infrastructure and ports. So the Houthis making themselves heard in the Middle East. Yemen's Iran-backed Houthis killed at least 58 government troops in missile and drone attacks on Thursday, a military source said, and wounded 11 civilians inside Saudi Arabia itself in one of the deadliest days of Yemen's civil war in 4 years. The attacks come as Yemen is increasingly drawn into the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran, with the rebels stepping up attacks against both government forces and neighboring Saudi Arabia, a key U.S. ally and supporter of the internationally recognized Yemeni government. And so, of course, these are rebels. The Houthis are rebels against not only the recognized Yemeni government, but, of course, against those that are allied. And so this is now going to continue to plague the region as we see more of this just continue to unfold. And Pakistan now is in I don't know if you heard this, but there's a new defense pact that was signed between Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. And they're now saying, of course, it's purely defensive. It's meant to protect. However, this is putting Iran on notice that you attack any of these three countries, Pakistan, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia, you now come under this pact. So Islamabad defense and analysts cautioned against viewing the agreement as an equivalent of NATO, but despite its collective defense provisions, but nevertheless, they're taking photographs together, folks, and they're saying, hey, you attack one, you've attacked us all, and that's not a good idea. And so now will Iran back up a little bit? Maybe. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan just got F-35s. So does Iran want them coming from both sides? Maybe not. We know that may not be a good idea. Pakistan's foreign minister said Sunday a new defense agreement with this country signed with Saudi Arabia and Turkey was not directed against any country and remained open to other nations in the region. So they're opening the doors for others to come into this pact. The landmark Mecca Joint Defense Agreement was signed on Friday as Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Turkish President Recep Erdogan, and Pakistani Prime Minister Sharif, as the three countries seek to deepen security cooperation and heighten tensions between the United States and Iran. Unfortunately, there's no way around it. You're going to heighten tensions as soon as you take a side. And so, again, this is going to continue to rattle. What's it going to do? Does anybody got any ideas? What's coming up next? I'll tell you what. They're now trying to bring in Europe into a conflict with Russia, which is interesting. Could this continue to expand? Exploding drone incident at German airport housing Ukrainian planes highlights a new threat. Germany is worried about further low-cost drone attacks as an initial assessment indicates the drones most likely belong to Russia. A Western official and U.S. source tells NBC News, who, of course, loves Russia. Russia, 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 Russia. And they love saying Russia. A foiled exploding drone attack last week at an airport in East Germany that houses Ukrainian cargo planes is a new quality of danger. Bum, bum, bum. Stay tuned, folks, because we may be seeing more and more things coming to push us to where are they trying to take us, David? I don't know. What are you thinking, David? Are you thinking that what I'm thinking? I'm thinking what you're thinking. You're thinking what I'm thinking. Okay? I don't think they're thinking, but they're trying. They're trying to take us there. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, you can't even talk about ranch. You don't have anything to ranch. Put your ranch on because apparently the lettuce is no good now. And what? Gee, I don't know. Should we have hydroponics and aquaponics? Nah. Just keep doing it this way. This is great, right? Cyclospora outbreak linked to recall. Taylor Farms lettuce expands to 15 states. Contaminated lettuce was distributed in 29 states total. Contaminated lettuce. The FDA and CDC announced that cyclospora cases connected to recall Taylor Farms lettuce have expanded to 15 states, with 6 states added to the count. So first they were destroying the plants. So they just outright destroyed the food plants. Okay? But then on top of that, now they're just like, now they're not destroying the plant. They're just doing recalls and stuff like this. In addition to distribution into Taco Bell locations, the contaminated lettuce was also sold at Walmart stores. Of course it was. And various food service locations in 29 states. Nothing to see here, folks. Just normal, Mochaccino World news. Mochaccino World, where you get your lettuce. It's getting crazy out there. By the way, did you know that Japan had ordered an evacuation and cancels 500 flights as Typhoon Dolphin? I didn't know there was a typhoon named Dolphin, but there was. And thousands of people in southwestern Japan were ordered to evacuate. And more than 500 flights were canceled on Friday. A slow-moving Typhoon Dolphin approached the region to bring violent winds, heavy rains, and, of course, high waves. And so the Category 1 typhoon had maximum sustained winds of 144 kilometers per hour, with gusts reaching 198 kilometers per hour, nearing a chain of islands. So we're seeing, again, beyond the earthquakes. Okay, so beyond the earthquakes and volcanoes, now we're seeing typhoon in the west. The Western Pacific is looking rough, folks, looking rough. All right. And so, and on top of that, now because of the situations that are emerging with these new alliances and so forth, they cannot ignore other things. And this becomes a problem for Israel because Israel, as we just reported, is allowing settlers to do more and more on the Temple Mount, right, in Jerusalem. Well, now Arab and Muslim states are condemning Israel's actions at Al-Aqsa. So they're coming together and they're condemning Israel in the process. So foreign ministers met in Jordan to discuss Israel's violations of one of Islam's holiest sites. So they're continuing this discussion. And folks, this is multiple reports now that are coming out that there's a problem here. The Arab and Islamic countries on Wednesday condemned Israeli actions at Al-Aqsa Mosque in East Jerusalem and said only Jordan can be in charge of the state. That's been the status quo for all this time. But I suspect that Israel has long wanted to change that. And so we're going to continue to watch the Temple Mount with interest. I believe it's a cup of trembling, just as Zechariah prophesied. And because of their eschatology, because they put things in the future that are in the past, this just spells war coming to that region once again. Okay, so again, we're going to see devastation, as we've already seen. I mean, it's not been good as to this point. It's not going to get any better. Back home here in the United States, the size of the American workforce has fallen by 1 million people in the past year. And basically, here's what's going on. It's not going as well as Donald Trump thought when he get reelected. Everything would go boom, 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 and that just didn't quite the way it worked out. The share of Americans who are working or looking for a job hasn't been this slow since the pandemic, according to the July jobs report, full of gut punches. And it's a signal of shifting demographics and a sign the current mood, economists said, it's causing some worry. And this is something that we've been warning about for some time, because again, you cannot continue with the 1980s economy in the 2020s. And those that are still looking at analog as the method for the future will continue to fall behind. So I think this is going to continue to be a problem moving forward. What you're seeing now is jobs that used to be very, very high-paying jobs being replaced by technology. You need to get on board with that. In fact, take a look at this. Researchers are testing humanoid robot surgeons. That's right, using AI brain chips for paralysis victims. And so they're using not only humanoid robot surgeons, but they're also putting in robot technology into people, folks. We are here. We have reached this place that we've all were warned about. We knew was coming, and here it is. All right. Some of you are going, man, this is like a movie. We're watching like a movie. How many of you feel like that? Anybody out there feel like you're watching a movie sometimes? I do. I feel like this is crazy, right? And it wasn't Sarah Connor like out protesting like data centers? Wasn't that like what Sarah Connor and Judgment Day, wasn't that all about? So you should have listened. Amazon just built a $2 billion data center in Gilroy, and half the town says they found out about it by accident. They didn't even know about it. There's a massive Amazon Web Services data center going up in Gilroy, California. At Gilroy, California, where there's plenty of water, right, guys? I mean, why Gilroy? Why not off the Pacific Ocean somewhere? No, they got to put it right where they can take people's water. The drama isn't even about the building itself. It's about how something this big can be sitting in public records for years and still blindside people the moment bulldozers show up. So it goes to show you that they are clever about the way that they approve these things, taking 56 acres, about 438,000 square feet of data center space, a reported $2 billion investment. And wow, talk about overkill and unnecessary. You're going to find that out in the next few years, that a lot of this stuff was unnecessary. And we're calling it now. We're going to tell you now ahead of time that that's a fact, what's going to happen. And the devastation will continue because we're going into uncharted territory with an unprepared population. Is not prepared for a digital switchover. Yes, idiocracy is in fact a good thing for everyone to watch, right down to the shoes they're wearing. It's not a joke. I'm serious, folks. You better get your electrolytes, is all I gotta say. You better get your electrolytes. All right. The whole game has shifted. All right. The U.S. economy is unexpectedly lost 23 jobs in July alone, signaling a weaker economy, folks. So this is not getting better. This is toughening up. And this is because, again, people continue to expect things to go back to the way they were. They're not going to. It's going to continue to shed these kinds of jobs. It's shedding a certain type of job. Okay. And so that's basically what's happening. The U.S. economy is shedding jobs, losing 23,000 of them during the month, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics' latest report released Friday. As more technology comes into the market, there's less need for human labor to do what technology can do. So if a robot can stack a truck, or if a robot can, do jobs that others where typically physical labor was required, that's a job now lost. Now the job shifted to the robot manufacturing plant, but people aren't picking that up. Oh, man. So this is the big challenge that we're facing. And again, you got these guys over here thinking AI is a solution to everything. So Altman compares OpenAI's next-gen AI to a genie that can grant any wish. The guy is absolutely insane. I'm sorry, but this is nuts thinking. And I'm telling you that as a peer. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman said humanity has already entered into the AI singularity, making the declaration during a wide-ranging appearance on the Relentless podcast that was published this week. So these guys are worshiping their own creation. They think they have created something that is divine, that is going to benefit humanity on a mass scale. Frankly, I think what we've walked into is a dystopian nightmare. And I think most of us are going to find that out in the tough years to come. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, we continue to pray for drought conditions in the western United States. And this has been something of concern. If you are in this region, you need to be praying. We cannot do that for you. And so this is something we brought up about a month and a half ago, and it is continuing to get worse. So people are not taking it seriously. Got to repent. You got to pray. The water level at Lake Mead, the nation's largest reservoir by storage capacity, hit a record low on Thursday. Now, by the way, this is the same time that reservoirs in places like Texas are being full to capacity. So it's not for lack of rainfall coming down from the sky. It's not falling in the right spots. Lake Mead's pool elevation hit the new low. And it's 1,040 feet, breaking the previous record of 1,040.50.8 set in July 2022. So we actually recovered from 2022 up a little bit. We're hoping it happens again, but it's looking bad, folks. And now they're talking about massive change in the Southwest. Well, it's about time, because they were building houses with no water. I remember a report that an entire neighborhood had to be shut down because they did not anticipate the water demand. And when they tried to, when they were trying to supply everyone, they realized they didn't have enough water for everybody. How about crazy is that? You buy a house, $300,000-$400,000 or something, and there's no water. Right? Unbelievable. How many heard about Corpus Christi, Texas, that ran out of water? So the first municipality looking at running out of water. Again, in a state, Texas, that's got flooding. It's got flooding. And it's also got an empty Rio Grande. Can everybody see what's going on? It's got an empty Rio Grande. You got one lake filling up to over capacity, and you got flooding in the streets of certain cities while you got an empty riverbed. Is anybody seeing a shift going on here? There's shifting going on. That's what's going on. It's changing. Everything is changing. And now, of course, you're bringing in AI, which is changing the economic landscape in a way that people haven't anticipated. New Orleans becomes the first major U.S. city to use AI for 9/11 calls. Do you think that affected employment in New Orleans? Yeah, if AI is doing the 9/11 calls, there's a whole lot of people that don't need to work there anymore. And they say it's the worst idea you can think of, right? So some people are really against this, but nevertheless, they're doing it. New Orleans has become the first city in the U.S. to use artificial intelligence to answer emergency 9/11 calls, but critic warns it could have deadly consequences. I agree, but so can people. So it's pick your poison. The Orleans Parish Communication District, which gets over 1,000 emergency dials a day, in what is among the highest volume calls in the country, is routing the 9/11 calls to an AI agent that decides which ones get bumped to human dispatchers and which get handled by the bot itself, according to the Shreveport Times. So now, your emergency calls are going to be handled first by an AI if you live in New Orleans. If you live in New Orleans, you're talking to AI when you call 911. 911, what's your emergency? Beep. Right? 911, what's your emergency? You're talking to an AI. That's right. And imagine you're calling in this emergency. 3 people are being killed, including a suspect in North Carolina, and you're talking to an AI. Caswell County deputies respond to a call for service 8 a.m. All right. And unfortunately, this is the kind of thing that continues to happen in our country. We're seeing more and more violence, more and more people losing it. Correct. How many have ever seen a show like Snapped? Well, I think a lot of people are snapping right now. Shooting Wednesday at home in North Carolina left 3 people dead, including the suspect, and another person injured, authorities said. Caswell County deputies responded to a call for service just before 8 a.m. at a home in Brooks Road and Prospect Hill, the State Bureau of Investigation said in a news release. Deputies found multiple gunshot victims. One person was taken to the hospital in an unknown condition. And folks, this is increasingly becoming normal in America because of the level of stress, anxiety that continues to plague our society. And so now we're seeing, again, more and more things that were avoidable continue to plague us. In our last report here, before we sign off, something that we as a House have the remedy for. They haven't figured it out yet, but hopefully maybe we can get more representatives out to talk to cities, counties, all kinds of things that are under cyber attack. We have, as New Kingdom, we have the solution. We have the only unbreakable lock that AI cannot crack. Sioux City declares a state of emergency after a cyber attack. They're continuing to suffer these cyber attacks because they're operating in 2026 with 1990s technology. The North Bay city says malicious software infected a system on Friday morning, impacting public safety and other city services. Well, it doesn't matter. Again, if you had the right lock, it couldn't have gotten in. Sioux City has shut down its computer network and declared a state of emergency after a cybersecurity attack impacted services like police and fire dispatch in the community. So again, we need representatives working for imagelockdx.com, imagelockdx.com to go to write these people right here. Big commissions to be earned. Talk to Dion right now. I'm going to tell you right now, you guys need to get out there and talk to them about these solutions because this isn't going away. And they're continuing to have an entire IT network shut down because of these kinds of problems. And the remnant have the solution. We have ImageLock DX. That's a lock AI cannot crack. Well, thanks for joining us. I hope this broadcast has been an encouragement to you. It took us a minute to get it off, get it on the air. So thank you for those of you that showed your patience and your tenacity. We certainly appreciate it. Share the link. Please do subscribe. And thank you again for joining us. Good night.